Welcome to the WFO John podcast, a show dedicated to men and the silent struggles we face day to day. From tips to deep conversations, we strive to give you a voice in a world that wants to keep you silent. I'm your host, Soaring, and today we are joined by a new guest to the WFO John family, KhalJoker.
What are we doing?
I'm doing pretty good, all things considered.
So I can really hope for day to day, just getting by as best we can.
Yep. So we're going to start a really fun series. So we're going to start going through a couple characters in video games and kind of talk about the positives, the negatives, and the toxic traits that they have and what we can learn from it. Today with KhalJoker, we're going to do Riku from the Kingdom Hearts series. I know it's a series that I played when I was a teen. I started with Kingdom Hearts 1 on the PlayStation 1, and then quickly we got the PS2, and then I started playing Kingdom Hearts 2. I remember fondly that I was homesick when the game came out, and we didn't have a PS2, so we went to the store. My parents just got tax return money, I believe, and we got the game and the PS2 that day. And so I came home and I played it, even though I was homesick. It was great.
So when Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, I literally spent 3 days on my living room couch. So I get that. I played the ever living crap out of that game until it was done.
Yeah, it's I definitely enjoyed that series. Now today that series confuses the hell out of me because I have no idea what's going on.
That sums up about 80% of people who have tried to follow the series with any kind of practicality.
But so yeah, we're gonna do some character deep dives. We have more planned. I know we do have Sephiroth, Cloud, Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil. Have them planned for later, but for now, we're gonna cut to the intro, and then we're gonna start talking about Riku. All right, Riku from Kingdom Hearts. If we were to sum him up, how would you best describe him?
So in the first one, he's definitely a character who wants to be number one. He wants to lead his friends. Um, and he assumes that role, or at least attempts to, and winds up becoming too sure of himself and ends up falling into so many bad traits and tropes that he falls to the darkness. And then later on, throughout that entire first game until the very end, he doesn't redeem himself. And from there on, it's basically a journey back to being a good person for his entire story arc.
Yeah, so I believe didn't okay. I know the timeline's kind of skewed. Wasn't it in Birth by Sleep that he got the Keyblade from Terra on
So
Destiny
at the end
Island?
of he's not given a Keyblade, but what happened is Terra passed on basically like his spark to become a Keyblade wielder to Riku because he was so impressed by his heart as a child. Terra could see how much light and ability that Riku would have and was so impressed in his dedication to protecting his friends and family that he gave him the ability to later become a Keyblade wielder.
And then through the events of Kingdom Hearts 1, he got sucked into the darkness, correct?
So he became so obsessed with trying to get them off of their island and out to explore other worlds because of meeting Terra that he wound up opening himself up to darkness and succumbing to manipulation by a character that we're not even introduced to until the end of the next game.
And then, so through the events of the first one, they get off the island, and then he starts making his plunge down into the darkness. And then the second one is a redemption from the darkness, correct?
So there's in the first one, realistically, we're only seeing Riku for about a third of the game. Then we're seeing Riku being overtaken by the darkness and working alongside Maleficent and their whole gang. And by the end of the game, it's not even really Riku, but Ansem, who was the Heartless that had taken him over. And then in Kingdom Hearts 2, uh, it's kind of he's accepted the darkness and he understands that he can use the darkness for good.
And it's also during that time that he is with King Mickey, correct?
That's so yes and no. Like he's working alongside King Mickey, but they're not together. They were working together in the darkness between 1 and 2 because they were in the realm of darkness.
And then when Riku came back, he also wore, I know he wore a like a blind over his eyes because he didn't want to see the light.
So he didn't want to see the light because by shrouding himself in the darkness, he took on the powers of Ansem, who had taken him over. And then, as soon as he sees the light and sees his friends, he becomes himself again. And he loses some of that power, but gains so much more.
So, what would you say would be Riku's? I guess the question would be, how does Riku best demonstrate leadership in Kingdom Hearts? Because I know Sora isn't necessarily much of a leader per se. He's kind of the fly by the seat of your pants kind of person.
So I would say probably Riku doesn't lead by being in charge. Um, I would say his best leadership trait is that he's able to help others do what needs to be done. Um, he could very easily be the leader, and that's shown as soon as I don't even remember when it was released, but Dream Drop Distance, which takes place between the second and third game, where he achieves what's called the Mark of Mastery, where he is now a Keyblade master, and Sora fails.
Yeah.
Riku dives back in to save Sora because Sora went too far. His entire thing is wanting Sora to succeed.
Uh, Small tangent. So when Sora fails his Keyblade mastery, the reason why he does, from a development standpoint, the reason why they do that is so that when you come into Kingdom Hearts 3, he no, it'd be Dream Drop Distance. He's like starting off as level 1.
Right.
Unlike Riku, who's probably like level 50 at this point in comparison. So that is why he essentially fails. That, and he's also like super cocky.
That's the thing, is that they find one way or another through each game to supplement why Sora became weak again for the start of a game. And
Come on,
it's so
Sora, why you
annoying.
suck?
But this time they actually gave us like a one-to-one reason of he tried so hard and kept pushing too much that he basically gave up everything he had earned and started fresh again.
And then in the lore video I did watch, they mentioned that Riku was a dream eater for Sora, go through the events of Dream Drop Distance.
Okay. So have you played Dream Drop Distance?
About 25 to 35% of the way through.
Okay. So you know what the Dream Eaters are then?
Yes.
Okay. So in the entire playthrough of Dream Drop Distance, Riku has a symbol on the back of his jacket that it's the symbol of the Dream Eaters, because even though you're playing as Riku going through his story, the entire time he's taking just ever so much of the darkness that would be affecting Sora, because he's Sora's protector. Whether he knows it, whether Sora knows it, he sees Sora as someone that he has to protect. And so
Yeah.
he takes on all of that pressure.
Thanks.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the quote. Someone was talking to Riku, and I think he was a kid at this point. And he said he wanted to protect what matters.
Yeah.
And
That
what
I
matters
think
to
that
him was
was
his friends.
I think that was actually when he was talking to Terra.
Did
Yep.
you like the game though?
It was either Terra or Aqua that he was talking to because he met both of them on Destiny Island. Um, I think it was him talking to Aqua actually, because by this point she noticed that Terra had like willed his spark essentially to Riku. And so she was talking to him, trying to understand why Terra did this when Terra himself had failed his mark of mastery because of darkness.
How does Riku determination and perseverance help him overcome challenges within the games?
So I think that just goes back to he tries so hard to just keep things to himself. And every time that he does that, he fails. Every time he tries to go alone without his friends, he fails. That's the big thing at the end of, like, towards, I'd say, 2/3 of the way through the first Kingdom Hearts. Riku's on his own. And even though he has the power and makes Sora lose confidence so much that he takes the Keyblade from Sora. And so Donald and Goofy abandon Sora. But then as soon as they decide to stand up and defend Sora again, Riku loses it. He loses the Keyblade, succumbs further to the darkness, and that's when he really falls. And then as he's trying to do everything on his own between then and the finale of Kingdom Hearts 2, he keeps losing at every turn until he decides, no, I'm going to fight with my friends. They are my power, just like Sora. And then guess what? They win, they succeed. And then Riku goes on to start learning abilities and powers that even up till now, Sora can't touch just because of how much he's giving himself into protecting everyone.
And in the second one, that's that battle at the end where you start off in that white and black checker room.
Right, when you tag team with Sora and Riku against the final boss.
I do have to say that was probably one of my favorite battles of that whole game.
I can
second only to
understand
the
why.
Sephiroth one.
Okay, as long as you didn't say the fight with Demix, because that fight is garbage.
Oh no.
Knock off David Bowie there.
All right, let's see. Last question. Would you say that Riku is a selfish or selfless character? Given that their whole arc, if you go from like beginning to end, would you classify them as selfish or selfless?
I would say it's a linear 1-to-1. They start out completely selfish. It's all about them being in charge, leading, trying to be the man of the group. And then by where we are in the series now, he doesn't care about any of that. He just wants everyone to be okay. He's willing to give up his life, lay down everything he has to protect his friends, to protect the worlds, to save the people from darkness. It's literally, he goes from being one of the most selfish characters in video gaming to one of the most selfless.
Would you also say that he is displays kindness and compassion towards others, or is he pretty? I guess you would say he'd be pretty cold towards certain characters and not really showing much compassion.
I would say that's kind of a case by case basis. Obviously, for Sora, Kairi, and King Mickey, who he spent a lot of time with, it's easy for him to just let things go and be open and warm. And then for characters like Donald and Goofy, he's more critical, more harsh, unintentionally, but he is. And as he grows and meets these new people, learns about them, he becomes more open and he grows as a character, kind of like we do in real life.
And So he's critical with Donald and Goofy mostly because of their role with Sora, correct?
I would say so, especially at the start, because he's jealous. Sora has gone out and found these new friends in his journey to find his original friends, but Riku can't see that part. All he sees is that he's been replaced.
Well, that and I believe there's also a moment where Riku is talking with Sora and he says, "You went and found Donald and Goofy while I was out there trying to find Kairi."
Right. And that entire time, he's had Maleficent literally behind him whispering, "Hey, he's leaving you behind. He's abandoning you. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about finding Kyrie. Look at him goofing off and having fun."
Yeah. Is that also when he's wearing that really cool looking like red and bluish skin
Not
tight
yet.
suit?
By the time he's in that suit, it's no longer really Riku. Um, and by the time he gets that suit, Maleficent's been defeated.
Yeah, I think Maleficent's been defeated like 4 or 5 times if you count the events of Union Cross.
Okay, Union Cross is unfair because technically most of Union Cross is a simulation.
True.
Um, but yeah,
Mind you,
let's see.
to the audience listening, Kingdom Hearts is so convoluted.
That's putting it lightly. So take a ball, wrap it up in a whole bunch of garbage, throw it in a garbage compactor, crush it, throw that in another garbage compactor, and then chuck it in the ocean.
Yeah.
And that's a rough estimate of where you have to start.
So Riku starts off jealous, and then over time he starts to shake off that jealousy because he gains his own power. And he gets a better footing of his place in the group of characters. He doesn't see Donald and Goofy as competition. He sees them more as
Friends
sidekick
and
slash
allies.
equals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he knows that at the end of the day, Sora is going to say that Riku is his best friend, not Donald Goofy.
Beyond a shadow of a doubt. And Riku even goes so far as to take the extra steps to help them reconnect people that they had lost and never thought they would see again, just to help everyone be together and be happy in the end.
Oh, and for anyone that is wondering in the background, every now and then you'll hear a voice in the background on Cal's side. That is his significant other, non-binary cactus. Just warning. All right. So as a whole, what are some positives that we can take from Riku to learn and apply it to ourselves?
Um, it's never too late to change. The entire first game, all we see is this jealous, very cross person who it takes forever for him to realize, hey, I don't have to be jealous. They're allowed to grow and still be my friend. I can grow not alongside them and become a better person too. And that was one of the biggest things for me. Um, Riku was such a character that was so obsessed with themselves, trying to be in charge and in control of everyone around them. And that when they eventually opened their eyes and saw that there were, other people that actually cared about them, it changed their entire world. He learns that you don't have to be in charge, you don't have to be the strongest. You can just be you, and that makes all the difference in the world. And I think that's something that everyone can take a note from.
Those are the positives. What? Okay, so now we're going to start getting into the negative side of things.
Yeah.
Um, we already talked a little bit on envy and jealousy, especially in particularly the first game. Uh, would you say that Riku is a very impulsive person or has like a lack of forethought?
I would say to a point, and he's also very proud, at least at the start. He's always proud, but he understands that pride can be tempered. But at first, like, he's very showy. It's always a competition. Everything he and Sora do is a competition. They keep tally.
Yeah.
Everyone on the island knows that Riku is superior
Want a race?
because he has shown everyone on the island that he is superior. In the original version of the first game, you couldn't challenge him to a fight until you beat a four-way fight against three enemies.
Oh, I don't remember that part.
Yeah, you had to beat Tidus, Waka, and Sophie. Not Sophie, whatever her name was. You had to beat the three of them to be able to challenge him to a fight.
Oh, this is from Final
The
Fantasy
first,
X, correct? Those three characters.
well, she is not. She was from a different one,
Oh, because the only character I could think of that would be with Tidus would be Yuna.
but it was most definitely not Yuna on Destiny Island. And they just so happened to choose Tidus and Waka to be on the island.
Mm.
Um, but the girl, you had to beat all three of them individually and then beat them in a 3-on-1 fight to even be able to challenge Riku. Because, hold on 1 second, I'm sorry. Okay. Um, to even be able to challenge Riku because he was the number one on the island. You got to do your race first before any of that. And that was your first chance to kind of show, hey, I'm not going to lose to you. And the entire time, Riku's kind of lording it over Sora that, hey, if you fail, I'm going to do that thing you want to do. Not because I want to, but because you want to and I can't.
Of all the characters, who do you think Riku has the most lack of trust with? But
Donald.
minus bad guys.
Donald.
I mean,
Just because they clash so much.
that's because they're both stubborn headed.
Right. They are too similar to really get along. Um, because they can't just let things go.
Yeah.
Beyond that, by the time everyone starts kind of coming together as a unit, as a team, he's at the point where he's accepting of everyone for their faults, not in spite of them.
Another small tangent. Would you say that Donald and Goofy is a small version of Sora and Riku's relationship? If you were to look at
I
it, Donald would be Riku, Goofy would be Sora, and
100%.
Donald treats Goofy the same way that Riku kind of does.
Yep. 100%. It's a direct correlation. And it takes Goofy standing up to Donald and standing up to the will of the Keyblade for Donald to be like, that's right. Sora's our friend. We're going to defend him.
All right, let's see. Yes, because we already know that he does not like Xehanort and Xemnas and Ansem and all them.
With very good reason.
Yeah.
He was being controlled by one of them for a large period of time, and he had the whisperings of them in his ear since he was a young teen.
Yeah. Although I do have to say, when he looked like Xemnas in the second one, Ansem in the second one, that was pretty cool because obviously I didn't know that it was Riku.
Right, you're not supposed to.
I think until King Mickey made a mention of it.
Yeah.
Let's
Well,
see.
he mentions that Riku was there And then when he rescues Kairi, Kairi doesn't see Ansem. Kairi sees his heart.
Yeah.
So she sees Riku.
And I can't remember, is Kairi a Princess of Heart? Was
She is.
she the seventh one?
Yes. So the whole thing with that, not only was she a Princess of Heart, but she was also Aqua's chosen successor.
And Aqua did show herself to young Riku and Sora on the island shortly after Terra passed on his spark.
Correct.
Because she does make a mention that, did he already pass on his spark?
Yeah.
And I don't think
She sees it
she
in
name drops
Riku.
it.
No, but she knows that it was Terra. Because by then Ven's not asleep yet.
Yeah.
But she knows that Ven wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, because then Aqua makes a mention that Sora looks a lot like her friend.
Right. Which there's reason for that. That's one of those convoluted things, guys.
Yeah. I've been watching a lot of HMK videos. He does a lot of Kingdom Hearts videos and Legend of Zelda. And so I was trying to watch his videos on like talking about all this. Holy crap, those videos are so long. And he's got chapters and he's got links to resources. I'm like, I remember the days when you could play game 1, 2, 3 and pretty much have the story.
Yeah.
You didn't have to rely on the spin-off game that came out only for the Game Boy Advance, and then this game that came out for the DS, and this game that came out for the 3DS.
And when I tell you that for the series that you and I talked about that I'm going to be doing, the spin-off game that came to the Game Boy Advance or Game Boy Color,
Chain of Memories,
and then got ported, I'm not looking forward to that on my journey.
Yeah, that's gonna be a fun one. I remember playing it when it first came out, and I'm like, what the heck? Why do I now have cards that I have to use for my moves? But I know in that game, I think the game takes place over the span of like a year, and Riku is trying to save Sora.
Interestingly enough, Riku is not in Chain of Memories.
At all?
That is a data copy, the entire game. Riku is not in Chain of Memories.
Oh, okay, so it's just a data copy of him.
Correct.
Playing out what he would have done.
Right.
Gotcha. Again, convoluted.
Riku was in the Realm of Darkness with Mickey at the same time, but they were not at Castle Oblivion.
Okay. I think of another question. So we know that he has been selfish. He does align himself to being selfless. We already know that he's very arrogant and prideful. So did you ever read the manga for the Kingdom Hearts?
I did.
Okay,
I did.
so you know that there's like a one-page panel where it shows Sora looking at the island from his bedroom, and then Riku is looking at the same place but from like a mansion balcony.
Yeah.
Okay. So Riku comes from money, which is why he's arrogant.
and which is why and that's also part of why he thinks in his prideful youth that he's the better fit for Kairi after she's come to the island.
And I really wish that they would have just made these moments in the games.
I think that was one that so that idea didn't actually come forth until they wrote the manga. There was never supposed to be any inclination that Riku had come from standing, I'll say.
But it makes a lot of his decisions really poignant.
Make a lot more sense.
Yeah, they stick out like a sore thumb when you like if you come from the vantage point that he comes from money, which is why he would think all these things from the get-go, and then to see Sora, who doesn't have money clearly and is very like nonchalant about things and happy-go-lucky, let's just race. And he's like we could race, but like what's the end goal here?
Right. What do I win? other than lording over you that I have beat you again.
Because that only goes so far. All right, so as a whole, we would say that there are some positives that we can take from Riku. Dedication to his family and his friends, his companions that he's made along the way. He's got a unbreaking bond with Sora that goes back so far, if you count the connections with Terra and Vin. Um, does Riku have a nobody? Because I know Sora has Roxas.
So Riku is never made into a Heartless, ever. Riku never loses his heart. He's just overtaken by darkness. So he has no Heartless and no nobody.
Okay.
And do you, do you understand why Roxas is Sora's nobody?
Not really.
Okay. So when Sora was a very small child, so this is before Terra and Aqua have even met Ventus. This is when he was an apprentice under Xehanort, old man Xehanort. Or not Xehanort, Xemnas. No, Xehanort, yes.
Yeah.
Too many X names. When he was apprenticed under Xehanort, Xehanort tried to split Ventus's heart in half so that they could later be brought together to create the Keyblade with the Greek letter key. Which when he did that, his heart broke and he was basically in a coma. But because Xehanort took Ventus to Destiny Island, where he grew up, Ventus's heart found Sora and was able to heal.
Okay.
Which then connected his heart and Sora's.
And is that why he has a resemblance to him?
So, because of the fact that Ventus is sleeping during the entire events of Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, all the way up until they're able to wake him up when Aqua wakes him, his heart is with Sora that entire time. And so Roxas is literally Ventus as a nobody. That's why he has no memories, no recollection, anything. And why he wields a Keyblade the exact same way Ventus did.
Gotcha. Again, this is just one of those series that you got to just take it with a grain of salt. Okay, so there's positives that we can gain from Riku. Is there some negatives that are very glaring that we can take from Riku and learn not to do?
I would say it's a noble trait, but the extent that he takes it to is negative, and that's being too self-sacrificing. Being willing to defend your friends is a great thing. You should always want to defend your friends and the people that matter most.
Yeah, and it's a noble trait.
Right. But if you push that to the extreme where you're putting yourself in the most extremely dangerous situations, literally throwing yourself at death just because you think it could affect them, that's when you start towing a line that's a little severe, I think.
Yeah. Helping your friends is important, but not at the sacrifice of yourself.
Right. You worded it way better than I did.
I would also say that jealousy and envy, while yes, they could be partially used as a tool, aka comparison, comparing yourself to others, seeing what they have versus what you have. Well, yes, everybody does it, but just know that comparison is the thief of joy. So when you're constantly jealous and envious of another person, you end up not finding any joy at all. which you know could lead
Pretty
you
accurate.
to a dark path if obviously Riku did come out ahead. He was able to uh, realize that his envy and jealousy was misplaced and was
Right.
able to forge a better bond, so to speak, with Sora.
I would agree with that.
Is there any other negative traits that we can glean from?
I would say mostly just when he was a child. Uh, I say child lightly. Kingdom Hearts 1 age, where they're like early teenagers, I would say. I don't remember exactly what the age is, but he's very impressionable. There's someone stronger than him. Obviously, they know what's right. And he falls into the mindset of, well, I'm stronger, so I'm right. The might makes right mentality is something that's very present at the start of the games. And
Yeah.
that's something that people every day fall into. I'm in control. I know what's best, regardless of whether they know what they're talking about or not.
Yeah, definitely leads to a lot of I guess you would say it leads to very damaging relationships. If you always think that you're the right one in the situation, you're quick to close your ears and not listen to what the other person has to say. Well, I'm always right. I have all the power. I know for men we get into this mindset. Some of us do, not all of us. Get into this mindset because we are built differently. We can lift more, we can carry more, we can push more because we're more physically strong than our female counterparts. We take that as a way to dictate what other people then do. We kind of bully, you know, probably early on in my relationship with my wife, I probably did the same thing. Oh, I can do this better than you, so just let me do it. That's not the way to do it. Just because you have the power doesn't mean you have to use it. Um, Wisdom teaches you those opportunities when and when not to use said power. A saying comes to mind: knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing that tomatoes do not belong in fruit salad.
Thank you.
So, with that, as we get older and we start to learn more and we take in advice from other people, we learn, you know, the appropriate times to use our power, the appropriate times in which we can uh, take those opportunities to lead, and then also know when it's time to fall back and let someone else take charge.
And it takes a long time to be able to figure out, should I take the easy way out at every turn? When is it going to be worthwhile for me to sit through, work things out, and overcome it? Or do I take option B and just skip everything and just be ahead? No, I'm not saying that we can't take shortcuts, because sometimes it's better for you. But if you never take the time to work through things and grow, then you're never going to develop into that person that you could be.
So with that being the negatives, do you think there's any toxic traits that Riku might have? Whether that be uh, his need for control and dominance, maybe gaslighting his other companions. Is it like anything that's obviously negative is bad, but it's kind of like that like walking on that line.
Right.
Yes, they're not bad. They're not good, but they're not totally bad. But no, toxic would be like the things that we for sure do not want men now and future to do. Like these traits right here that we're about to talk about, they are not things that we want going forward because it doesn't lead to a good society.
So the obvious one that sticks out to me is something from the first Kingdom Hearts game. Obviously, while Riku is still kind of falling to the darkness, um, they find Kairi. He and the people with the Heartless, they find Kairi. They have her body. And he taunts Sora like she's a possession. While you've been playing games, I found Kairi. I'm trying to save her. And you're here playing games. And he literally treated their other best friend, who they both very clearly cared about before, as a possession, as a trophy to be won. And whether that's about a female, a male, treating a person as a possession is completely unacceptable.
Yes, that is very true. Your significant, if you're in a relationship, your significant other is not your possession. If you have, whether it's spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, however your relationships look, they are not your possession. One, consent is very important. No means no, and the absence of a no is also a no. Too many times we see these big macho alpha males.
Yeah.
They try and bully pulpit women to do some pretty heinous things, whether that be putting things in their drink and then taking them home and taking advantage of them, or completely belittling them in front of their friends. Just outright, just toxic masculinity. That is not what we teach here. I have a thinking that the smartest guy in the room will never admit it. So that should also apply to the alphas. If you are truly the alpha, you do not have to say it. And if
you are powerful, you do not have to show it.
Yeah. Theodore Roosevelt says to speak softly and carry a big stick. What these alpha, quote unquote, alpha males are doing is not only not speaking softly, but then they're brandishing their sticks. And it's not very good. Early on, Riku was very much toxic in the way that he used Kairi as a possession in order to taunt Sora, aligning himself with Maleficent and listening to the things that she was whispering in his ear allowed him to continue on that thinking that he is the strongest one of the two. There's a reason why I chose you, Riku. This is something that Maleficent would have said. She has a way of getting those earworms into you and making you think that, oh, well, the reason why I chose you is because you're the strongest. You're the most cunning. You're the most conniving. I don't want to live off topic, but
I do want to input something there. Is that because in a situation like this, I have seen the argument that, oh, well, he wouldn't have done that if not for her whisperings. That's not the case. He was already on a dark path. Regardless of what Maleficent said to him, he was already falling. He is responsible for his own actions. No one made him do what he did at this point. Yes, he does become taken over and he has no control of his actions then. But up until this point, he was making every call himself. He thinks might is right. He should be in control. He knows what's best. I don't want that to get spun.
Yeah.
That was his call.
Correct. And really, all Maleficent was doing was just amplifying the flames that were already there.
It's like, hey, you're having these thoughts. It's okay to have these thoughts. Better yet, let's act on them.
So I would say that in Kingdom Hearts 1, Riku does not have any he does not take any responsibility of his actions. He does not he has a lack of accountability to the activities and things that he did present in Kingdom Hearts 1. Now, I would say Kingdom Hearts 2 is where we start to see him, at least towards about the last 30 to 25% of the game, he does take accountability for what he did. He does start to understand that he royally fucked up.
I would say that that's when we start to learn about it. He realized it. So one of the biggest things to know about the difference or the distance between Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 is that it takes place, there's an entire year in between them. So there is an entire year that Riku has gone on this journey and found out what an absolute piece of garbage he was. And I would agree with you to a point that it's not until the last third of that game that he truly realizes who he's supposed to be. But I think the entire game, he's on that journey and realizing mistakes as he goes.
Yeah, I would say Kingdom Hearts 2 is Riku's path to redemption.
Yeah.
Even towards the very end of it, I don't think it's completely 100% resolved. Because I believe there is some early on tensions in Dream Drop Distance, which is the game that takes place between the second and third game in the series.
One of them.
Obviously, he passes his Keyblade mastery and becomes a Keyblade master. And then obviously Sora does not. But yeah, so Kingdom Hearts 2 is Riku's redemption story. We got to kind of peek through the veil and see the inner workings that are taking place. And I would say that King Mickey kind of also helps him realize the bad things that he did.
Oh, by a landslide.
Mostly because he, at this point, Mickey is the king. He kind of has a higher vantage point than even Riku does.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I was a rich kid who's strong, but this is a king. And he kind of helps him right at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1 when they close the door to darkness from the inside so that it can't escape. And they do that together.
Yeah. Again, this whole series is so convoluted. But if you have been playing it since the very beginning, you relish in that because that allows you to theory craft and to find where your story aligns with the games, and you create that even stronger bond with it. Because I'm sure, Cal, you've had a deep understanding of the games, and you also have a deep love and appreciation for them as well. Which is very different than me because I played the first and second, and I maybe got 25% into the third one. So, but don't worry about spoilers for me because I have no problem with watching ahead just so I know what I'm getting into.
Fair enough. I would say there are definitely life lessons to be learned from a lot of games and a lot of just media. Kingdom Hearts was a huge turning point for me growing up, seeing the different sides of things and how you can grow from being a person who's maybe not the nicest, not the best, and turn into someone who actually cares. And I think that Riku is a pretty great spot for that because you don't have to be the happy-go-lucky goof to care about everyone.
Yeah. So, looking from the whole perspective of Riku, there's positives that we can take from him. There are some negatives that we can learn from him, and there's some toxic traits that we can avoid from him. we hope that this deep dive of Riku was helpful for you in any way. Definitely in the comments, tell us if there's any characters that you want us to tackle. I'll try and come up with some better questions and be a little bit more on task. But that's what happens when you do something new. I wanted to create a little bit of levity because the first 5 episodes of the podcast have been very, very heavy, and the things that we're talking about, because we want you to learn something. We want you to take what we say and try and apply it to the best of your ability to your own life. That way you can find peace, healing, whether it be for you or you can then pass it on to somebody else. The character deep dives was more of the levity to kind of bring in a little bit of fun to the podcast, but also to get us to critically think about some of these characters that we played with, whether we were kids, teenagers, young adults to full-fledged adults like I am. I'm a 33-year-old, and we're talking about Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3 and 4 and however many there's going to end up being. I know the 4th one's coming out probably in the next 2 years or more. I guess it depends on the development time. But being able to look at these characters that we've created a bond with, and then kind of critically think about them in this way, I think that's kind of fun. Definitely look forward to doing more. So before we get off here, Cal, go ahead and explain who you are in your community, and then we'll call this episode to a close.
All right. So I am KhalJoker. I'm just a guy. I play video games and I talk to people. I like a lot of nerdy shit. Kingdom Hearts is really important to me. It's something that helped me through a lot of dark places in my life. And so that's kind of why I wanted to be here with Soaring for the first episode of this, so that I could show a little bit about how I developed as a person, thanks to seeing how this character developed. And if you guys refute anything that we said here today, I know that I myself personally, I'm open to conversation. I want to hear what you guys have to think. If you heard something we said today and you don't agree, or you have a different viewpoint on the points we made today, please let me know. I would love to have a conversation. Because 1, I want us to be able to grow. And 2, new ideas are always welcome. Because the more we hear from you, the more we can grow with new ideas and do new things that you guys might enjoy. That's what I got.
Very well said. So we're going to go ahead and call this episode to a close. We appreciate all our listeners. If you have any comments, put them down below. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Up in the top somewhere, I don't know which side it's going to be on, will be a link to our previous episodes. Definitely give them a listen. We worked a little hard on it, and definitely want the channel to grow for sure. So like I said, like and subscribe, and yeah, we'll go ahead and call it a close. And remember, when life gets you down, stand tall and we forge on. Thanks.